Hello everyone, I'm Prasanna Kumarza. I'm currently a sophomore computer science student at University of Louisiana Monroe. The project I'm presenting today is something I built to help students enjoy learning while also understanding difficult concepts in a way that stays with them. The project is called Escape the Virtual Maze. While the demo focuses on programming, but the bigger idea is to introduce a new kind of educational supplement, interactive story-based learning using visual novel. This game is just the first step in a much larger vision. Now, let's start by talking about a common problem, something many students face, including me. In college, across many subjects, it's easy to feel lost. Professors do a great job explaining material, but they don't always have the time to make sure every student truly understands it. At the same time, students might not feel confident enough to ask questions or they don't realize where they are going wrong until it's too late. That disconnect leads to frustration and disengagement. And it's not because students aren't trying or because instructors aren't doing their job. It's because not everyone learns best through lecture and slides. So the real question becomes, how can we close the gap? This might be case inside the classroom, but what are students actually doing outside? Outside of class, students are already spending time with things they enjoy, like video games, visual novel, or interactive stories. Some say those are distraction, but they aren't just distraction. They are actually well-designed experience. Games give you feedback immediately. You can fail, learn, and try again. And because you care about the story or the character, you are motivated to keep going and complete the story. That kind of engagement is something we rarely see in traditional education. So I started wondering, what if we could bring the same experience into the learning process? The question is what led to this project. What I have built isn't just a game, it's a learning supplement that uses visual novel to make education more interactive and engaging. What is visual novel? A visual novel is a story-driven format or a game where players or a student read dialogues, make choice, and see the outcome of those decisions. Each decision leads to a different outcome, and I am using that format as a teaching tool. In the demo I'm working, the focus is on programming loops. The student helps two characters escape a digital maze by writing and fixing loop logic. But uh, instead of just being shown code, the student sees how that code plays out in the context. They follow the characters, test different paths, adjust their logic when things go wrong. It almost becomes like a hands-on experience where they aren't just told what's right, they figure it out by interacting with the situation. This approach isn't meant to replace professor or textbook. It's designed to support them by making learning more personal and easier to connect with. So this will act as more like a supplement, not as a replacement. And this method isn't limited to loops or computer science. It can be adapted to many subjects. Escape the Virtual Maze is the first module of the bigger project I'm building. In this module, two characters, Kendall and Harry, as you can see in the slide, they are trapped in a virtual maze, and to escape, they have to solve a series of challenges that all revolve around while loop logic, the topic that I'm trying to teach students through this module. And the first picture is of the maze, and the second and third are of those two characters. And the about the game, the student isn't just reading the story there; they are interacting with it. They are the one choosing the direction, spotting the problem, and adjusting the logic behind the scenes. And when something goes wrong, it plays out inside this story. Maybe the character keep looping endlessly or they stop too soon. The game doesn't just say that is incorrect. It shows what that logic look like when it fails, and the player learns by figuring it out. And at the end of the around the end of the presentation, I'll be showing a screen recording of the demo so that you can get a feel of how the experience actually look like. So why do I think this kind of approach can actually work? I didn't just wrap a story around a lesson. I used a structured teaching method called ACE, which is designed to guide the learning experience step by step. ACE stands for Educate, Demonstrate, Guide, and Enable. In Educate, I introduced the concept like loops through a natural conversation between Harry and Kendall. In Demonstrate, I showed the loop in action so the player or the student can see how the condition affects what happens. Next, in Guide, I guide the player through common mistakes with feedback built into the story. Now, in the guide section, I'll ask them questions in between. The one in the slide, you can see question one, what is the output of the code? It also falls under the guide. This will make sure the game is interactive for the students. Finally, in the enable, I am planning to give the player space to solve similar challenges on their own. And once they solve that challenges, they can complete the game. This structure is built into every scene. It shows up through how the dialogue flows, how choices are presented, and how the story reacts. Now, I haven't finished the full game yet, so I can't for sure say how a student will respond, but I built this to make learning more personal and more engaging. And because player or student is invested in helping the character move forward, they stay interested. They are not just reading or clicking, they are making decisions that carry the story. And that connection is what I believe can make the learning experience actually stick. Now, I'd like to give you a quick overview of how I built this. The entire game was developed using a tool called RainPy, which is a free open source engine designed for creating visual novel. It is based on Python, so it supports logic scripting, and scene control really well. All the interaction, the dialogue, the choices, the branching logic are written in .rpy files. These files are easy to read, update, and expand. I designed the game to be modular, which means I'm not hard coding a single use product. Instead, I have built a structure where I can plug in new content, new lesson without starting over. For example, once this maze module is complete, I can use the same framework to create a new one for, let's say, recursion or if else topic using the same base setup. And the game also runs cross-platform. Uh, it's easy for a student to use on Mac, Windows, or Linux. To move faster in the development, I use AI-generated placeholder art for characters and scenes. I use ChatGPT and other AI tools to create the background images and character images. But in the future, I'm planning to use Mannequin, which is much more easier to use for visual novel. And most importantly, this structure is designed to grow. Each module uses the same flow and logic, which means which makes expanding the system simple and efficient. Now, this is the recording of the first module, Escape the Virtual Maze. And this is the menu page. As you can see, Escape the Virtual Maze. I have a code there. Now, let's start the game. This is screen recording, so I'll explain you as the video moves forward. Initially, I'm trying to build a story, so I'm telling them what's going on. Right now, it's a school, and as I told you, the background are created using ChatGPT and other AI tools, so they aren't perfect. And at the start, I told them there is a challenge that awaits, so this will make the student think what challenge. Now, as you go into the story, they are in the hallway. There are two characters, Harry and Kendall. And as a user, I'm playing the Kendall's role. Harry is already smart in programming, so I will take help from Harry to learn different programming concept. In this case, the loops. Now they are talking about what are they gonna learn this week, or what are they have this week, and they get into the class and they see their professor, and their professor this week is gonna give them a challenge. Now the challenge is they will be placed in a virtual maze, and to get out of the maze, you have to solve different problems and puzzles. And only way to get out of those puzzles and problems is using loop. That's the virtual maze. This is outside the maze. And if you see the conversation they are doing, Harry is explaining what loop is to Kendall. And since we are playing the Kendall's character, uh, who will be the one learning that. And this is inside the loop. Now you are inside the loop and you have to get out of it. And as a user, I'm clicking there to move forward. It's not going like a video. It's me that's clicking that. And since I'm already inside the maze, I am trying to give the student an example of what a simple maze would look and how would you solve a simple maze. So I have shown them the code, and this falls under the educate uh, of the ACE framework. And you can see I have given them 4 options, and those options were all the problems that could come in the pretest loop, uh, infinite loop. There were other errors such as off by one, and I'll probably skip through other errors because it's going to be a long one. Off by one, skipped. Then there is pretest loop, logic loop. And once you complete educate and demonstrate, this will fall under demonstrate, showing the problems, how it's gonna go. You move to the guide. And right now I have completed till guide. So this falls under the guide. I'm gonna ask you a question. And this question can be solved if you have learned everything before this. Right now I gave the wrong answer intentionally. And I got an option whether to reread this concept or try again the question. You could do anything you want. And I tried again. And at the right corner, you can see I'm keeping track of this score. Uh, I gave wrong answer in the first question, so 0 by 1. And then I'll give the correct answer on this one. Then we move forward. And that's the end of the game up to now. I haven't integrated the enable portion yet, but I'm planning to do that once I'm done with the guide one, because right now I only have one question. I'll be adding more questions there and trying to make a story go forward. And in the guide, I'll probably ask them a question, a challenge. I'll probably give them a challenge comparatively harder than the guide question, and those the challenge will have all the concept you have learned throughout the game. And once you complete that challenge by yourself, you'll complete the game. So that's the demo of Escape the Virtual Maze. So what's next? Escape the Virtual Maze is just the first step in what I hope will become a larger learning platform. Now I started with Loops because it's one of the earliest and often most confusing concepts students face when learning programming. And once I'm done with this module, my plan is to build additional module that focus on topic like recursion, conditional logic, and function, which falls under computer science. Each one will follow the same format, a story-based experience where students apply logic through interactive scenarios. Now, the stories will be different because if you are going to play the same stories, it's going to be boring. So we'll have different stories. But this idea doesn't have to stop at computer science because the format is modular and story driven. It could be adapted to other subjects such as biology, ethics, or even history, anywhere understanding and decision making are key. In future, I'm planning to gather feedback from student and instructor to see what actually helps and improve the module based on that. And down the line, I'd like to integrate AI tools to give hints, to track progress, and adjust the experience to each learner. Right now, I'm focused on finishing the first module, but the structure is designed to grow. Thank you for watching the presentation. Escape the Virtual Maze is still in development, but it is built to be the first of many interactive modules that can support how students learn. The structure is flexible, and once the first module is complete, it can be extended to other topic and even other subjects. That's the direction I'm aiming for. I appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you again.